Build it and they will come only works in the movies. If you want your website to benefit your business, it needs to do more than take up space on the internet. On today's episode, we talk about how to turn your website into a lead generation tool.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. Our unique team helps small businesses grow by providing essential marketing expertise.
Hello and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. I'm Bill with W. Parmentier Photography.
I'm Justin of Justin Care Design.
I'm Alicia with the Spark Social.
And together we make up
The
Marketing Essentials team.
So today, can you guess what we're talking about?
Marketing.
Marketing, yes. More specifically, how your website can benefit your business. And even more specifically than that, 3 specific ways that you can do that.
Right. So there is, at this point in time in 2020, if you're a business and you don't have a website,
Where have you been?
yeah, where have you been?
Do you have people who still come to you and think they don't need a website or have said that to you, Justin?
Yeah, actually, I have run into people like that. And honestly, if you're, I'll give you an example. My wife does a lot of knitting, crocheting, and seamstress work for period accurate pieces, right? Mm-hmm. So Civil War, Revolutionary War. And she sells everything through her Facebook page, which works just fine.
Right.
But she's just one person, and you're talking about maybe a couple of pieces a month. Right?
Okay. So she's not looking to scale or grow drastically.
Right. So if you're doing something like that, I think Facebook page is fine. It gives people the information. You can see the product. You can contact them directly there through the Facebook page and say, hey, I want to buy, this shawl. And that's great. Yeah. But if you want to scale, if you want to grow, then yes, you need a website.
I can think of one other business that doesn't have a website and probably never will.
What's that?
A speakeasy.
Oh, okay.
Some don't. They're trying to be like all elusive and
I found,
that kind of fits their brand.
Yeah.
I found in my field that it's a lot of photographers don't have websites. Especially,
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know why it is. I'll occasionally get somebody to say, knowing that I do mostly commercial now and I've kind of gotten away from most of the wedding stuff that I do. I'll have somebody contact me and go, hey, can you take a look at this photographer and see if they're any good? And they'll send me a Facebook listing for them. And I can't find any website for them anywhere.
Right. So when you do that, you can't find that they have a website. What goes through your head?
Sadly, what goes through my head is they're probably fairly young and fairly new at it.
Okay.
Because I think, and this is not a millennials pick on type of thing, but I think the generation that's coming up right now is looking at things in a different way than we are. And they're finding less use for websites, even though we know that's not a good thing. I've seen it many, many times on, like I said, with many different younger photographers that don't do that. I was planning on trying this past weekend to go to a local studio that was doing a swap meet on some, where they were selling used equipment and whatnot. And I was trying to find a website for that photographer's web itself, and they had nothing. It kills me.
I suppose you could get by with just a Facebook page, but here's a couple of things to think about. One is there's a psychological effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds legitimacy, right?
Yes, actually.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It would tell me that, like, if I'm picking out a photographer for my wedding, I'm not going to hire.
What are you doing? Not too far off in the future.
Yeah, if I don't go to Vegas first, but it would tell me that you may have just picked up photography overnight, because anybody can set up a social media channel, but to spend the time and dedication to setting up a website shows that you are a dedicated business owner.
Yep.
I'll out myself and tell a quick story. Try to make it very quick here. I had a business colleague reach out to me and said, hey, I know you used to do weddings, but you don't really do many of them anymore, but my daughter's getting married next year. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to refer you to her. Do you have a web page that I can send her to? I said, well, I don't have that anymore on my website because I don't advertise it. But I know the importance of lending legitimacy to that. And I went and built a specific it's a hidden web page. You have to know how to get to it. But I actually went and built a web page with a portfolio of some of my wedding shots to be able.
Easy website. To get the password to get in.
No, it's an actual website, but it's just not listed. It's not.
So you have to share the URL.
It's not in the menu of my website. But I did that because I wanted the person to understand that I am a legitimate business, even though it's not something I do regularly. I want them to be able to, see some of my portfolio as opposed to what you see on Facebook, because it's hard to find things on Facebook.
Also, as a photographer, I feel like the image quality on social gets compressed and downgraded
big time.
You can't scroll. You can't it's not as easy to have a gallery per se.
Then you're also on Facebook. You're fighting everything else that's around that. Your Facebook feed, all the ads, all the other cruft. Versus a curated website where you can show your
best
product in its best light, uninterrupted and without distractions.
Yep. And I'm just amazed at how people try to work things nowadays, not realizing the importance of a website. So, sorry, I know we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, but
the fact is that people will use your website to vet you, right? They want to know you exist professionally. And you're not just doing this, out of the back of your van, or, you just started last week, or you're doing it as a hobby. I mean, they want to know that you're a legitimate business.
And I don't want to harp too much on why a website, but I think one last thing is that social media is not owned. You do not own your Facebook page. You do not own your Instagram account. So if you're using that for your profile is your gallery, it could disappear.
Yeah,
your account could get banned. You could get hacked. And so,
good point.
Yeah. So that I'm for a website always.
Yeah. I actually know somebody not too long ago that lost all of their Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
Because somehow they got misrepresented as somebody else, and Facebook went, no, shut down the entire account.
Oh yeah. Geez. They will do that. So
and now what do you do?
You have all your galleries, all your content.
Yeah.
Whereas a website, you can back it up, because I have heard of websites getting hacked and stuff too, but a website, you can back it up on your own file.
And depending on who you go with, they even back it up in some cases.
Yeah.
So.
Right. I'm not very techy. I know.
So anyway, tell us. Okay, so the first thing is obviously it lends legitimacy
to your existence.
Word today. Wow.
It lends legitimacy to your existence.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is it provides a hub for any other marketing channels that you might have. And it's not just social media. Social media is definitely one of the marketing channels, and your website provides that hub where you're driving traffic back from your social media channels, but also your marketing channels. Think about it. You have business card. That's a marketing channel, right? Mm-hmm. If you do networking events, you do any kind of face-to-face marketing, that's a marketing channel, right? People are going to say, oh, give me your website, right? Or they're going to be looking for it on your business card. If you're doing any kind of traditional print marketing, whether it's a brochure, or if you're doing something like a billboard, right? We talked to from Lamar Advertising not too long ago.
Bethany.
Bethany, right?
I'm there for you.
I was trying to blank on it. Bethany, we love you, Bethany. And we talked to her about what's happening in the trend of outdoor advertising. And she said, we have started to eliminate things like phone numbers and things on billboards, because honestly, people don't have the time to write it down. And we certainly don't want people trying to take pictures as they're flying down the highway.
There's a 30-car pileup today.
Right. She said, what happens, we just make sure that the name is really clear, and we figured they'll go Google.
If they're interested enough, yeah.
Right. So if you're using something like that as a way of marketing yourself, they're going to be looking for your website. Sure. You better have one.
So that's an interesting concept that you brought up, is when we've talked about this in the podcast before, is all your marketing should lead somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then what you're talking about is the website is where it should be going to. So in that vein, anything you're doing outside of that, whether it be networking, like you said,
should be driving them to your website.
Should be driving to the website.
Yeah.
Facebook should be driving to the website.
Right. And there's lots of reasons for that. But anytime I work with a client and we're developing, the different marketing channels that they're going to use, the website has to be the first and foremost. I mean, other than maybe a business card, because it's the hub where everything gets driven to. And it's, if you're using social media effectively, like multiple channels, you need that cross connection between your website and Instagram and your website and Facebook.
No, I know personally myself, I've pushed back at potential clients that didn't have that prior to, it's like, what are we doing with this? It's great that you want to do imagery or video or whatever, but where are you pushing this back to?
Right. So my website is going to go live this week, finally. Yay! A year later. But we got what is it? We got Slack. We got, what is it called? We got pushback. People are like, we couldn't find your website.
Yeah. If it's not there, then you don't exist.
Mm-hmm. We have a shitty landing page.
So let me ask this question for you, Alicia. Mm-hmm. If a client came to you and wanted social media done for you, from you, and had no website, what would your reaction be with them?
I'd ask because you can claim your social media channels and you can start posting, but I would ask, what's the plan? When is this website going live?
What if they said, I'm not using a website? Would you take them on as a client, or would you have to question that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
That's a good question. Well, it depends how much they want to pay me. So I would really question their investment in their marketing, in their approach to their marketing, because we have turned away clients who don't take their marketing serious, because then we know that no matter what we do or how much they pay us, there's not going to be success for them.
Well, I got to believe some metrics are you kind of need a website to know how many people are actually going to the website.
Your
from
analytics.
Social media.
Great point.
How can you prove to somebody that their social media campaign is working if you've got no metrics to go on other than
likes and
they liked on something?
Shares. Yeah, no. And it's your hub, as Justin's saying, it's your hub. So that website is the main goal to get, you want social media interaction, you want the conversations in the comments, but you also want people to dig deeper into your business, right? So if we can see those clicks from Facebook or clicks from social media channels, and we can read that in the analytics in the back end, we know that their marketing is working because someone has taken the next step from social media to go to the website being their hub.
It's an important part of the sales cycle. Yeah. So quickly, what are the different elements of the sales cycle?
So when you look at the buyer's journey or sales funnel, it typically goes from awareness and consideration to consideration to conversion are the three basic ones. You can divide way down on that now. Mm-hmm. You can dig a little deeper, but those are the three basic ones. So awareness to consideration to decision making and conversion. But
so a website plays an important role in several of those. Now, awareness, that may be your social media, it may be your word of mouth. It's, people may become aware of you other than finding your website. Mm-hmm. But consideration, they want to go know more about what you do, what value you can bring to their life.
Right.
Sure.
Website is a great place to do that. And research, if they're one of these folks that likes to really read up before they make a decision. Mm-hmm. Website, great place to do that. Build your expertise, right? Show them that you know what you're talking about and that you're the best in the business. And then a conversion point. Yes, you can convert somebody through Facebook. Yes, you can convert somebody through, another social media channel or face-to-face. But website's also a great place for those conversion points. And that was actually, I was getting into a little bit of the number 3, which is using as a lead generation tool.
Sure. Obviously, there's different points that are going to bring people right back to the website. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned, for instance, face-to-face. If you're at a networking event, eventually, if you have enough interest in another person that's at that event, you're going to grab their business card. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I look at is, other than what's the quality of the business card, is, do they have a website that I can go back and look at later?
Right.
Because I want to learn a little bit more about them beyond what I just talked to them for about. You know as well as I do, when you're at these networking events, you may have 10 or 15 minutes to talk to somebody. You don't get the whole story at that point. You may want to know more about them.
Right.
So that's an important part. I guess people often think digitally. At least I can say I have in the past, where it's like, well, you need a website because you need to be able to point your Facebook and your other social media to that. Mm-hmm. But I love what you're saying as far as the lead gen, as far as on the physical, face to face.
Right.
And I think just if we could take a second to define lead generation, right? Because some people may be thinking like, well, I don't need new leads from my website. Okay. But they might think in the terms of all my business is word of mouth. All my business is referrals. I don't need to run lead generation or digital campaigns. That is wrong thought process, because even if it's word of mouth, like Bill is saying, to your point, somebody is going to Google you after. They are going to look you up. So even though it was a referral, it was, from your past customers, word of mouth, that website is still lead gen that has its place in that process, that buyer cycle. And also, lead gen, you may not be looking for, people to come to the website and, buy from you, but lead gen could also be signing up for a newsletter, becoming part of your community. If you have some type of, membership or something like that. It really doesn't need to be like a huge, conversion or sale at times. It's just, a website always has its place in the lead generation process, depending on the sales funnel, I guess.
Now, and I would push back on and I know who you're talking about, push back on the lead gen thing and saying, well, we get all our business word of mouth. Okay, fine. But don't forget that your website always also acts as a recruiting tool for hiring. Yeah. People are going to go there to find out about your company. Do I want to work here?
Yeah.
Can I backtrack just to part one for a second about establishing your existence?
Yeah.
I've recently started working with a lot of people in the CBD industry. And the common misconception right now in that industry is we're making money hand over fist right now because we're the new kids in town. This is brand new. Everybody and his brother wants to get on the CBD bandwagon. And that's great. But you have to have a long game approach when it comes to marketing.
Right. And
what I've started telling my clients is, look, yeah, right now you're making tons of money. But this market, as more and more states in the country start to legalize, the market's becoming more and more saturated. And the day that the federal government says, and that's going to come in just a matter of how long, when the day comes that it's completely legalized, you want to have established who you are already, because you're going to be swimming in a much larger ocean at that point of potential clients. So you have to have a long game approach. Establishing your website early on is part of that long game approach, because now you're building up that existence. People can go back and see maybe a blog post that you made from 3 years ago. Oh, he's been in the game since this day,
And you make a good point. Get in as early as possible to establish your website. Average turnaround time for signing and developing a website and getting it in really good shape. Take 6 months, can take 9 months, could take a year.
Yeah. And like I said, the biggest hurdle
it shouldn't take a year.
No, yeah.
But 6 months is not an unreasonable amount of time when you consider from the time you start talking about it to, figuring out your strategy, getting it built, then getting the content in there, getting it optimized. It's a process.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
6 months is not unreasonable.
And I'm so surprised at how much people in that industry don't take the long game view, because they're just looking to make the profit now. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with making money when you can make it. I'm not holding that against anybody. But if you want to last 3, 5, 10 years down the line, set up now. Get your website going. I'm sorry. That's an industry that I see that is having that problem. Because and part of it's because they've been underground for so long too. Right. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And the good news is that now in 2020, it's so easy to get a website up. As far as just the logistics of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't have
a simple website.
It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. If you just need a simple online brochure, 3-4 pages, you can get a Wix site. You can get a Squarespace site. It's not difficult to get the logistics of it. Now, what you put into it matters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the next part of it is content. So
in regards to a lead gen tool, having relevant, well-written, and fresh content is critical.
So from your standpoint, when you're talking to a client about that end of it, we've talked ad nauseum about the fact that nothing marketing-wise should be set it and forget it. Right. Because you're doing yourself a disservice. So how often do you suggest to your clients, after you've built them this fancy, nice, or even just a generic website, how often should they be updating that and keeping on top of that, putting some new fresh content in there? does it depend on the industry, or is it just more, is there kind of a rule that you pick and say?
There's a lot of variables there, but there are certain parts of your website that won't change that often. Typically things like where you're talking about yourself, you're talking about the company, whatever. You're talking about what your mission is. Those are fairly boilerplate. They're not going to change that much. But in regards to establishing your expertise, that content, whether it takes the form of a blog post or an article or a white paper or a video or a podcast, that content should be updated regularly. Now, we've had other people on here talk about websites and talk about content strategy. And if you're doing something like a blog, typically we'd suggest, something like 3,000 words a month. So you break that down. Let's say you're going to write something, once a week. Well, you break the 3,000 into 4 and, figure out your word count for your article. But what that does is a couple of things. One is it builds you a cache of material that's when someone comes to your site, they can see right away, oh, this person writes a lot about this particular topic.
Yeah.
Right? They must know a lot about this particular topic.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
And they stay up to date on this particular topic. So you're establishing yourself as an expert. You're also helping yourself SEO wise. So when search engines, like we're pretending there's more than one.
Yeah. The great Google gods.
Right. So when Google is indexing your site and it sees that there's regular fresh content, it rewards you. It
puts you up higher in the rankings.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, even when it comes to something like Google My Business, the fact that you add a website to that jumps you up higher in there.
That's right.
In their rankings. So.
And there's, I'm not saying you're going to be number one in Google, but it definitely helps people find you because a lot of what you're going to be writing is going to contain keywords or phrases that people are searching when they put words and key phrases into that search bar. So the more hooks you have in the water, the more chances you're going to have of catching a fish.
Sure. No, that makes absolute sense. So now there's one other thing you have here is engagement.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. What do you mean by engagement with the website? Is that by going to do a blog post? Is it in listening to it or reading it or whatever? Engagement
comes in at a couple of different levels. So it depends on where somebody is in the the sales cycle. If they're still vetting you and reading about you and trying to find out, engagement can mean they read one of your articles.
They maybe commented on it or something.
Maybe. Yeah. That would be great if they did.
Ultimately, yeah.
Right? Or if they saw a snippet of it, say, out on your Facebook page and then came to your website from the Facebook page. That's engagement. But then there's another level of engagement, what we would typically call conversion. So now they're going from that consideration stage to the customer stage.
That I want to learn more kind of stage, yeah.
I'm ready to buy.
Oh, okay. Even that step further. Okay, I get you.
Okay. Conversion can also mean, hey, they just signed up for your newsletter. But typically when I'm thinking of conversion, I'm thinking of they're ready now to do business with you.
Yeah.
And that may take a while. But having good engagement points on your website, so calls to action that allow them to easily engage with either, hey, I want to download this piece of information, or I want to contact somebody, or hey, I'm ready to buy.
Okay, now you just used a word that we use a lot, and I don't know if we actually ever told anybody exactly what that meant because it seems kind of self-explanatory. But what exactly is a call to action?
Okay, call to action is any place on your website where you're asking someone to do something like sign up or download this or contact us.
Okay.
It's an actionable point for them to take. And usually it's in the form of a form. I don't know how else to say
form.
That. Yes. It's a form, but it could also be a chat window.
Be a survey.
Could be a survey, right? So there's other ways of engaging. Even something as simple as somebody going to your Facebook page or your Instagram feed and liking something you've posted. That's engagement.
Gotcha.
Right? Ultimately, you want them to engage with you at the level of, hey, I want to
buy something from you.
I want to buy your product or service. But that's a step in the right direction, right? Every little point of engagement is one step closer to them converting to that customer. So it's important to have those engagement points on your website in all the places that make sense. And maybe it makes sense to have it on every page in the footer or off to the side. Maybe, the other thing too is you may have more than one engagement point.
Okay.
And I think you should. I think it's important to have more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because not everybody's ready to do business. So having like a secondary option is,
so that would be the newsletter or something along that line. Right?
Yeah. So on our website, we have obviously like contact us or schedule an appointment. But then the secondary one for us is get a free social media audit.
Yeah.
Now that's a great engagement point. Giving some value away is really enticing as a call to action and an engagement point. So whether it's download an ebook with some cool tips in it, or whether it's get a free evaluation, those are excellent engagement points.
Very cool. So what else do we have left? I'm playing around with buttons on my iPad. I totally lost where we were. So
we were talking about the third point of the
engagement,
the lead generation tool. Yep. Your website is a lead gen. And we talked about fresh content. We talked about being a repository for your expertise. We talked about engagement and giving away value in like downloadable content or, a trial service. Mm-hmm. There's other things that you can build into your site to make it a lead generation tool. But the point is that you're using it as a hub for your social media, or I should say, using it as a hub for all your marketing channels, mm-hmm. not just social media, but all of them. Right. So you're driving people there. They're using the website to vet you, make sure that you're legit. Now that you got them there, you got to know what to do with them.
Sure.
So that's where that lead generation aspect comes in. You have to know how to lead them through that process. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's not just, you don't just have a big buy button when they arrive. You want to bring them into the process slowly and appropriately.
Okay, we get about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes left of the podcast. So I don't want to.
Good. I've got about a minute left of my voice.
That's not good. So I'm going to ask this question anyway, just to throw you off. If somebody were building their own website and they mm-hmm. were trying to figure that out, is there a good resource or is there a starting point that you would say to them, hey, before you even start to build that website, these are a couple of quick things you need to make sure you think about?
Yeah. If they just go to Google and put in there how to make my website a lead generation tool, mm-hmm. I guarantee you there's like a dozen articles that'll show right up. Mm-hmm. Any one of those is probably a good resource. There's probably even some videos available because this topic has been covered
I'm sure.
ad nauseum. So yeah, there's definitely good resources out there. If you're building your own, I highly recommend getting some good deep information on how to make your website a lead generation tool. And they're usually, there may be some like, here's 10 steps or 10 things you need to consider or 10 things that should be included. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Normally I'd say we put that stuff in the show notes, but
you could make the show notes longer than the audio.
Yeah, exactly. There's, if I think of it, maybe I'll go find one or two that I think are worthwhile and we can put it in the notes, but that's information. It's very easy to find. The hardest thing is it's going to take time.
It's not a 5-second process.
No, but it's well worth the investment because like we talked about in the intro, if you just build it and throw it up there, and you don't take the time to optimize it as a lead generation tool, it's not going to work for you. It's just going to be taking up space on the internet.
No, I get you. So sum up.
So I think maybe with very few exceptions, necessary for any business to have a website.
I would agree.
Because people will vet you. It establishes your existence. It provides that all-important hub, and it's an important part of the sales cycle. Mm-hmm. It's where a lot of your marketing efforts are going to be drawn to. And if you're using it properly, it's a lead generation tool to get people to go from being observers and sort of researchers to being those customers that you want.
Cool. So if somebody says, hey, look, I don't have the knowledge or the know-how to build my own website, I need help. How do they contact you, Justin?
They can contact me through my website, justinkerrdesign.com. I'm also out on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You can check me out on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing with us today. And with that, I think it's time to say goodbye.
All right.
So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can find the back episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts, and you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Both of them are the Marketing Essentials Team.
You can find us on the web at marketingessentialsteam.com. And if you subscribe through our website, you'll receive a weekly email and letting you know when each episode has been published. Also, you'll receive a link to subscriber-only content.
You can also find us on Facebook and our private Facebook group. Just search Little Roadie Marketing Support Group. It's a great place for other marketing professionals and business owners where we can share marketing advice, challenges, and general trends. Hope to see you there.